welcome to episode 5 of the Car Biz Chronicles. Guys, thank you so much for your engagement and support to this point. We're getting a lot of positive feedback. It looks like we're headed for a second season, but no guarantees yet. But again, I wanted to thank you so much. Today's episode number 5, is something that for me was awesome to watch live in person because this is not a process I'm familiar with. I've been out of the business a little bit on the retail side and really never spent too much time on the used car side. So today, I'm going to bring you Mike Boyd of IReconCars and Dan Garwatoski, a used car manager in Columbus, Ohio at a large Nissan store. These two guys just completely understand used car reconditioning from start to finish. Part of what IReconCars does is help understand bottlenecks, but overall, guys, it was unbelievable. The takeaways are this for me. Basically, if you can track it, you can fix it. So if you realize where in your recon process you have an issue, you can really dive in and address that issue. Also, know your vendors better than you know your cars. Know their strengths, know their weaknesses. Know what they can offer you and when they can't offer it to you. That will play another major role in your ability to get a car from taking it in to lot ready. That's the biggest part. And last but not least, and one most people become uncomfortable with, is the term of money. Don't be cheap as it relates to reconditioning, either in what you spend or in who you choose to do it. The work will far exceed the expense if you're not the one doing it. Trust me. So, without further ado, grab your teams, grab your notepads, sit back, relax, and enjoy the Car Biz Chronicles episode 5. All right, hello and welcome. Sean Welsh here, bringing you another wonderful episode of the Car Biz Chronicles. We are live in Columbus, Ohio, at the wonderful offices of AutoSuite. Here to my left, we have Mike Boyd. Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Boyd. I'm the CEO and founder of IReconCars, a 25-year veteran in the automotive industry. I created a software that dealerships use to automate and control the reconditioning process. So we allow dealers to be able to manage their vendors, the people who actually do work, and be able to repackage that information into a lead generation tool to engage with the consumer.
Wow, that sounds awesome. All in one spot here. This is great. And you brought with you Dan Garwatoski. Is that right? I got it? All right, Dan, tell us a little bit about your history, my friend.
I've been in the car business 21 years this summer. I started out as a valet washing cars. I did
the hard way.
Yeah,
that's how I started.
Did sales, I did finance, and I've been a sales manager for just over 10 years now. So I'm in charge of managing 280 used cars a month, $4.5 million worth of inventory that we turn over 12 times a month. So, or over 12, we're at an over 12 turns. So I'm really excited to be here and share what I have, and if I can help one other dealer get through some of the...
We're all in the same boat.
That's the whole goal, right? That's why we brought everyone together. So you've met the panelists. It's time to get into it. So, Mike, when talking about used cars, I was a used car guy for probably my second job as far as time on job, right? So used car manager. From your side, you did it before, right? Before IReconCars, you were a retail guy. What kind of issues kind of brought you to this? What bottlenecks brought you to this idea of what you do, but more importantly, kind of what dealers face today? Let's assume they don't have your software. What are the bottlenecks? What are the issues?
So one thing I find, I have dealers all across the United States, and I just got into Canada, but I found very early on is that every dealership has the same problems. We have the same pinch points, and it's a very unique problem that the better we do, the harder it gets to keep doing better. So I always, relate it to building a house of cards, right? We never really have a great foundation. Eventually it's going to crash, and that's why you have the peaks and valleys. So working at the dealership level, we would work really hard at selling a lot of cars, right? And then when we got done selling all the best inventory, then we'd have to totally forget about retail and then focus on acquisition, right? Replenishing, and then of course, once you get the cars, that creates a whole nother problem. How do we get that car reconditioned from raw product to the front row?
I'm gonna stop you real fast on that. When it comes to acquisition right now, Dan, how difficult is that now than it was 5 years ago?
I would say it's definitely more challenging today, but we have, I think it's all about who you employ and the buyers that you have set up. I buy cars, my assistant buys cars, his assistant buys cars, and we have a full-time buyer. So, you know.
So you have 4 people within your organization right there at that store that are interested and involved in
Every
purchasing
day.
inventory.
Every day.
I think it's important to note that, especially since, I talk to dealers all day, right?
Yeah.
Dealers, very few of them are very progressive. Dan is very progressive in bringing other people into the fold, not just holding, coveting that power, right?
Yeah, you can
as a
see
shield.
that. He says he's got 4 guys doing
Exactly,
it.
and you really don't see that.
No.
Normally I go into a store and you have that single point person who tries to handle 90% of the job so that way they protect their job,
But
right?
Mike, I think it's about what we talked about before we even came on air. It's that fear, right? If he's a UC doing his
Exactly.
job, if he has to ask 2 people for help, now it's like, oh, look, Dan can't do it himself. Well, that's not even the
Exactly.
case. Dan's actually going to do more with more people because he knows how to lead,
Exactly.
right?
Right, and that's really what it takes to stay relevant
Yeah.
in this market. You have
Absolutely.
to be progressive, and that's why, when we were talking about who to bring on,
Yeah.
first person I thought of was Dan because of the way he does things and conducts his business.
That's really awesome. Dan, how long have you had that structure of numerous people working for you, assistants plus a buyer?
I'd say we put that in about 3 years ago, where we really felt that in order to acquire the right inventory at the right price, we have to set our parameters, right? But once you have your parameters set, it's just go, and we just keep buying cars that fit our strategy page, that fill our buckets, and then rinse and repeat.
And that came from the top down, that sort of organizational idea? Was it something you were working on?
Well,
Kind of how did it come to?
So our owner, Tom Carpenter, is an amazing owner. He works more than any of us, which really makes it nice most of the time.
Yeah.
Some of the time.
But he's honestly a really down-to-earth guy who just wants us to be successful. He's been in the business 40 years, so he understands what it takes, but lets us have the leash to do it ourselves and innovate ourselves. I mean, he's in his 70s now, so he lets us innovate and really continue to
It
build.
takes autonomy.
Well, yeah,
to
you have
build
to-
his brand. He
yeah.
lets us. I mean, you'll still get the phone call, and you'll still have to take the call and
Sure.
slow down, Tiger. And you're like, no problem. But he does, for the most part, just let us go. And so me and my team, we just thought this is the best way. I can't buy all the cars. You can't buy all the cars. You can't buy all the cars. But together, we can all buy enough cars to make money. Yeah.
That I love the autonomy, like you say. I love ownership that allows for that. I think that's how people grow. I mean, I don't think enough owners and GMs really take that to heart. I think people just think it's a car dealership, so it's supposed to be run a certain way. But I think in 2018, there has to be a better, more innovative way to run dealerships. Otherwise, they're going to end up not around as frequently as they are now. But we were talking about it. So we talked about acquisition. Once we acquire, though,
That's
now
where I
what?
step in.
Right, now
Well,
what
that
happens?
that was the problem. So at the dealership I was at, we had a very real problem, and it was self-inflicted. It was a self-inflicted wound where, because we had a great marketing plan and sales plan, we were executing, and then we were also getting cars in and selling them at a rapid pace. But that doesn't mean that your own internals were able to scale and grow.
And keep up.
Right, and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
business faces the same thing, right? You have to have raw product, you have to move it through the system and get into the hands of the end user. But rarely do you see somebody in the automotive industry think that far forward. They're just more reactionary, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's what happens. I talk to dealers all
absolutely.
the time, and everybody's in the same problem. We need to
Yeah.
work on our turn time, But when you talk to upper management or some of the more veteran, aka crustier old managers,
Sure.
they're so locked up in the old way of doing things because that's the way they fed their families. So they complain about the problem, they admit that there's an issue, they express desire to implement a change, but they're scared to death to do it.
Right. Dan, why do you think managers in your position get scared to death?
I think we get complacent, we get comfortable, we're used to making whatever paycheck we're making, and we just think that I'll just keep doing what I do. And I know it's not the best,
But it works.
for the company, but we'll struggle through it. If we send 12 to detail and it's going to take them, a week to get them back, that's just what it is. That's how slow they are.
Right, yeah.
Because it's Bob, the guy I've used forever, and I don't want to be mean to Bob.
Right. I don't want to change the conversation from Bob. Right. He's my guy. He's the guy we use.
Yeah,
We've used forever.
I've used him for 5 years.
But Bob's not efficient, right? When we look at the
Right.
business model, Bob's not efficient. So, do you guys take care of everything on your lot? So, do you detail in house and do everything? No, you set it all out.
Yeah, we're 100. We
Very
obviously
small lot.
Yeah, we do service all of our own cars. We have Nissan North and then a Mitsubishi store across the street, so they service some of our non-Nissan stuff. So
Okay.
they'll help us with that bottleneck. I'm sure we'll get into later of
Yeah.
getting the cars through service. But we do everything outside: detail, touch up, PDR. and we do everything outside. We don't have any
No inside spots.
no inside.
All done
spots.
outside.
Yep.
That's, hey, look, you got to do with what you got lot wise. But you're not sending it out, are you?
We're sending
Like,
details off.
Details offline.
Yeah, but everything else is done.
So let's get into the bottom
That's
line.
awesome.
Yeah, is that where it happens?
I think that's where it starts. I think, you know, we were talking about acquisition, and we're doing so many proxy bids now
Yeah.
that I think, you know, one day you might not get any cars, and then the next day you might get 15 cars. So you don't really know when that
Yeah, it's
huge
not a
push
perfect
is.
science when you're dealing with.
In acquisition, right? No,
Yeah,
it
so-
depends on where you get them from. Are you just a local guy? Do you just buy here? Do you look at all the Manheims? Like, how do you go about it?
We're definitely regional. We'll
Okay.
look at anything 500-600 miles and
And
truck
bring it in.
Yeah, for sure.
Bring it in. The
If
truck
it
could
makes
bring
sense.
2, could bring 10.
Yeah,
No,
so-
yeah.
And then if they had a good sales weekend, or if we have a good sales weekend and new cars or used cars, and we take those trades in as well, then it all just kind of compounds itself. So we, you know, with detail specifically, we have 3 detail companies now, and we know that with Mike's software, we know that you got a car today, you got to turn it in 24, 48 hours, and then it's coming back. If it doesn't come back, then on my screen I get flagged, and I can say, hey, what's going on with this one car, or what's going on with these 5 cars you picked up yesterday?
So, Mike, and I haven't seen the software live. So, is it like is it almost like an Amazon thing where it's getting the VIN scan throughout the process, and you just kind of check in on it?
So each
I mean, I don't want to turn into a sales
Yeah,
pitch,
no,
but
you're fine.
For some definition.
I'm fine with you doing a self.
I know you are. Yeah.
So a very unique thing about the IReconCars system is that we give autonomy to everybody involved. So whether you're the manager who controls everything, right, and facilitating the workflow, to the individual vendor, the people who do the work, everybody has their own unique access point, so that way they can see if they're doing the correct job, when is it due, you know, how long is it taking them, so they can self-manage.
Cool.
Because being at the dealership level, I understand all those different things we have to do. We have to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Right, in the course of
Swiss
one
Army
day.
knives. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to divvy it up and go to you and say, hey, Sean, you're in charge of this one critical piece, and I understand that's your critical piece. I want to make sure you understand what that critical piece is, but I want you to understand at what point I'm upset and at what point I'm happy, and let's just find a comfort level that you can supply me on a regular basis, and then if I need to grow, like Dan brought up, you know, if you pick up 15 cars in one day, well, I may overwhelm you in that position.
Right.
But understanding and looking at the software and engaging with the process all the time in real time, that allows you the flexibility to increase the number of vendors you have, decrease, make sure you're divvying it out correctly. But at the end of the day, it's about moving product.
And you said something I think is not discussed enough in our industry, and it's expectation. Right?
Yes.
Here you are saying, here's Mr. Vendor, here's what I expect, and now we have a shared piece of software where my expectations are as clear as day. Dan, is that how you see the software, and is that what it allows you to do with your vendors, is have that expectation where they know?
Yeah, so when I bring on a new vendor, or when I've worked with the vendors I had before IRecon, it was, you know, this is my expectation, this is how I expect you to do your job, whether it's detail or touch-up or PDR. And then the nice thing with the software is I can tell you as my number 1 vendor that you're my number 1 guy. I'm going to fill you up to make sure you get paid. But if you start to slack off, you got somebody right behind you that wants to be my number 1 vendor.
Yeah,
So
that's cool though.
Yeah, so
People
keeps
fighting for your business is pretty
every-
cool, man.
yeah, because I think that's oftentimes what we fall into. If we get Dent Wizard who's doing everything on our lot, we just kind of let them kind of run the show and do what they want.
We end up with Bob the Detailer, right? They just,
Yeah.
pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered, right? So they have
Yes.
this idea, they just sit there and keep taking it off.
Yeah, so I think with keeping them in check and with Mike's software, they also know what order to do the work in, which is really helpful. So you get the oldest
That
cars
was-
through the system the fastest.
Yeah, and that was
So
a
that way
very
you can
big
turn the
problem
gross.
we had,
Yeah.
and I know you used to too, where you would have a wonderful vendor, person, I mean, you can be an artisan as a vendor, like the best touch-up person ever.
Yeah.
But when you only come in maybe once or twice a week, first thing I asked myself was, why is it only once or twice a week? Why do you have so many different dealers? Well, it's because of our inefficiency at the dealership level prior to IReconCars, that you had to literally, or they would, have to let enough work backlog that it made it a worthwhile trip to come in on a Tuesday.
Crazy.
It is crazy, and it
Like,
still
you just-
happens.
I've been on the dealership for 8 years, I'll be fair, but my God, like you say it like that, I think to myself,
That's
I think I
the
want
way
to
it
deal
works.
with people who want to wait to be a backlog to do my work. That's
But that's the way it works because cars are in
Yeah.
flux. They're constantly moving around.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless you have a software to track it and let you know who has it and when they have it and when they're supposed to be done, you cannot facilitate that process.
And you find
efficiently.
all your vendors engage it.
Well, I wish they were 100%. I think it's like salespeople or anything
It's
else.
management, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It
it's 80% of them do a really, really good job,
Okay.
and then 20% of them you have to stay on them and remind them that somebody else can do what you do. Not that I don't love you, because I love all my vendors.
Sure.
But it's about getting the cars done.
Because we're all replaceable, right? At the end of the day, we hate to think that we aren't, but we are.
It takes the human element out of it. You both are exactly right. So from a business perspective, yes, I want to hang out with you, Dan. You're a cool guy, and when we have time, let's talk about our kids and the football games and all that kind of stuff. But when it's go time, I need to feed my family. I need you to know it's go time. I need you to know what to do. So I don't want to make business decisions based off of your kid's football game because we're cool and buddies. I want you to know that, hey, we can talk as long as you get your job done. And that's what a software solution does if it works, is it takes the human element out of it. It gets rid of that needless conversation.
Yeah.
It makes it much more of a valuable meeting point of, hey, look, we both have jobs. You want to make money, I want to make money. You're leaving money on the table, which is making me, putting me in a very bad situation,
Right.
in fulfilling the lot and giving myself
Which is
what
how
they
I
need.
feed my family and do my stuff, right?
Exactly,
Yeah. So
exactly.
when we get into that, kind of coming into the next point here, I think it's a good transition. Is this idea of knowing your vendor, right? Really diving in, understanding what's important to them, how they go about it. Are you, in your position, Dan, are you vetting vendors, like as they come to you, like, hey, we're the new interior guys in town, or we're the new deck guys? Like, do you take yourself through a process, or do you just kind of use word of mouth? How do you do it?
Yeah, so I think I try to, I'm at the level, fortunately, where I'm selling and servicing enough cars where I'm not going to take on the brand new guy.
You're
right?
desirable. Your lot
Yeah,
is
I mean,
desirable.
But you got people knocking on your door, right? That's
For
not
sure,
okay.
for
all right,
sure.
yeah,
So
okay.
so I'm gonna call who else they're working for, and
Yeah.
most of the time in the Columbus market, if you call another used car manager, they're gonna be straight with you and say, we don't do business
Word
with them
travels fast in the
anymore.
automotive industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Even I was in Chicago, same way. I mean, one guy
Yeah.
gets a bad name. Normally, it's sales guys in Chicago. You're just like, oh, hire that guy, whatever. But on the vendor side here for you, so you go through it. When do you get not all the way to the football games, but do you get on a personal level with these vendors, or is it just strictly, hey guys, look, this is what we? Because I find a lot of people, back to the Bob's detail. I find a lot of people forge these personal relationships, making it difficult to make that serious business decision when it's time.
I think, a lot of my vendors, I think fortunately, have worked for me for 10 years or so. So I do know them more personally maybe than I should.
Okay.
But they know, better or worse, they know exactly where I stand. Like, I don't pull punches, I don't play games, I
I can vouch for that, by the way,
Yeah.
because I am a vendor
Yeah.
of his. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't do work on cars,
No.
but he uses my software, right? And I remember approaching Dan and saying, hey, let me do a demo. And he was, yeah, I'll take a demo, I'll take a look at it. But yeah, it was not a cakewalk. I mean, he was asking the right questions, a lot more than I usually hear, and really wanting to understand how it works. So he didn't just pull the trigger right away.
And I think
I've seen that when you deal with your vendor.
And that's what I say. I want to take it to that next level. Do you have, top of your head, maybe 2 questions you'd ask a vendor? Are there general questions you would ask these guys, like is turn time? Like what is it that the audience should say? I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't asked my vendor that.
Well, I think the most important thing is to make sure that your vendors can show up on time. Like, if you can't show up on time, that's a non-starter.
Isn't it crazy you have to talk about this? Like,
That's
this
the
is
way these guys.
business 101 that
The
you
crazy
Vendors
thing-
don't know when their vendors show up. I mean, really, I walk in and say, you need something.
And these guys are all self-employed. They all work for themselves.
Right, they're all 1099.
The reason they do what they do is because they have that autonomy with their company, whether it's STEM Wizard or they start their own touch-up business, that they want to come in at 11 o'clock in the morning, and that's why they signed up. So that doesn't work for me.
Right, because you set the times of your vendors, and how do you do that?
Not specific times,
Okay.
but definitely days. Like,
I think you set the job expectation more than even that. You're
Yeah, I
more
think-
like, hey, this is what needs to get done.
Yeah, we open at 9 o'clock, so the key box opens at 9. So we expect you, you got to be here by 10, and you're going to work till 5, because I have customers that are going to come in every day for due bill work that you need to be here to handle.
Got it.
And if you can't do it, that's okay. If you can only do Mondays and Tuesdays, that's fine.
Because now we're talking post recon, getting the car to the lot. You just talked about post sale.
Yeah, I mean,
Situations that come
yeah.
up. So now this guy's getting fed both after the sale and before the sale. This is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and
for vendors.
it's all super, super important to give the customers what they want, because that's at the end of the day, that's what we're all
That's
here to
what
do.
we do.
is
That's
we
what
have to
pays the
sell
bills.
cars, and we have to make it easier for our customers to buy cars. And that's what this software and
And that
what
means
these
coming back
vendors
later
do.
for your dent. That means
Yeah,
whatever.
if that's what it means, and the guys have to be reliable. I mean, that's the number one thing. They have to be reliable. If you can't be reliable, you can't work for me or on my lot. You just can't do it, because I can't have a customer show up at noon and you show up at 2. That doesn't.
And you can schedule.
Yeah, that
So
doesn't-
in the system, since everybody has their own unique access point, so you can go in there and flag it for detail and say, hey, pick up the keys from Dan. This customer will be here at 10 a.m. and they accept it. And there's no not knowing. There's no
question.
There's no hoping.
So when you say accept, is it like create a calendar invite? Like what is it?
It doesn't create a calendar invite.
Email.
So
what does
you
it
have
do?
a workflow. So
Okay.
if you're a vendor and you do detail, then 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can accept work or be automatically accepted depending on your interaction with the dealer and how your relationship is. But when you get that request and you accept it, you get all the information necessary to know where the car
Start
is.
time, work time,
Exactly.
work,
Where's the
smoke
car?
car, whatever the case is.
Who
Yeah.
requested it? And if there's a special note like see Dan at 10 a.m. on Tuesday because this is a sold car, you know that. And I don't. And as a manager, and that was one of the pain points I had and why I created a software solution was as we were growing our business. Well, that creates a whole nother set of issues, right, with CSI.
Right.
Because that can cripple you. I mean, that's
Right, because
worse
again, we were just
than
talking about
running.
everything up to the sale.
What
Now
about
we're
after?
into something that's way more
Right,
right.
and
No,
if you're
agree,
very-
but it's
right,
crazy
in
to
this
hear.
velocity-minded automotive industry we're in right now, well, that's great, but you have to be able to fulfill,
Right.
what the customer wants.
Yeah, I
And
think we
that's
get so
the
worried
product.
about, well, the customer. We don't think about what it's going to actually take to pay off the customer and do it the right way.
Right.
We just think about the end, right? Yeah. Digital retail and all these
So
things.
if you
buying
promise
cars
to do
online.
something, deliver it, and then you build upon that success.
If you promise to do something, deliver
Deliver it.
That's going to
Absolutely.
get, that one there is going to get written down. So, promise
I made it.
something-
I made it on the
You're
white
on the
paper.
list.
All
Yeah, that's
right.
going to get brought up at some other point. Promise something, do it is what I'm going to write. So, Dan, in your end, when you deal with vendors, right, all of these vendors come with costs, right? Everyone costs money, software, your job, all cost money. How do we validate pricing? Like, do we go through a vendor? Do you shop your vendors based on price? It doesn't feel like you do.
I don't, but like we were talking about, when a vendor comes knocking on my door and let's say they want to do PDR work for my lot, right?
Yeah.
I just ask them how much is it, and then that automatically checks and balances what I've already got in place. If it's ridiculously higher or if it's lower, but they're always usually.
But if it's lower,
I'll listen.
you will listen, right? Because it's lower.
Yeah.
But if it's higher, will you listen? And maybe someone does a better job, or do you think certain things just get capped?
Yeah.
A detail at 150. That's just kind of the
Yeah.
detail limit. I don't care if the guy is a magician. It's going to be 150.
Yeah. I think everything has its place, and I think the vendors know kind of where they're at. But some vendors will say, look, it's if I can get PDR done for $60 per car today, and somebody walks in and says I'll do them for $75, and I'll say, well, I'm currently paying $60, and they'll say, no, my work is worth $75. Thanks for your time. I'll say, okay.
Okay, and the guy might leave, and you might go, did I miss something?
Yeah.
Just now? Like, is this guy legit? Right?
But I think if you're happy with what you have, if you're not happy with what you have, then you probably listen a little more.
But there are
But
thresholds.
I think there's
Or most
financial
service
thresholds for
work.
anyone. I mean, especially for you guys because it's off-site, right? It'd be different if you had this $12 an hour kid back there busting details.
Yeah,
and look
but
at things different.
just to make sure we all understand, like I said, I'm all across the United States. Dealerships that do a lot of work inside, it's not because they're going to charge the used car department any less. If anything, a lot of times they actually
Oh,
charge
dude, we
the
pay
car more.
retail. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
I was
what you
gonna say,
pay.
so regardless of who you have doing the work.
No.
Okay.
I had a blow up with ownership probably 10 years ago. I was sitting in the office. I said, boss, look, you guys are charging me 100% here. I'm paying retail, but you want me to retail cars, and I don't really
Retail, yes.
understand the math on that. So here's what I'm thinking, right? Across the street, this cat's gonna do the work for like $80 an hour less.
Right.
I think it makes sense from a business standpoint to do that. And his response was, you're right. You better go find a job over there.
But let me add this.
Oh, listen.
So I've had the same type of conversation
Okay.
in my career prior to IReconCars, and I proved it out. And that was one, when you're just sitting across from somebody at a meeting, which is traditionally how it works in a dealership.
Correct.
And we'll say service. Service generally is like, hey, the used car department is not spending enough. They're not reconditioning enough.
No.
They're not doing what they should
I am in
do.
those meetings.
And then we all are.
Why?
And then the sales department is saying, I spend too much, you're too slow, you're not supporting what I need to do,
Yes.
and you're yelling. A software solution, if it does what it's supposed to do, it negates all of that and it becomes a true data play of, hey, look, here's what I'm spending, here's what you're providing. Mr. Owner, it's your money. At the end of the day, if you tell me to do that, I'm going to march to your tune.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you right now, you're losing more than you think you're making. Because that's the thing. Perception versus reality.
Yeah.
Being able to point to the data and saying, hey, look,
Data
I
guy.
understand
I'm a
doing
data guy.
this,
Yeah.
but let's actually go here. Let's max them out on their time.
Right.
And the best part is, if they upset us, we just turn off the faucet and they go away. In-house employees, whole different ballgame. Whole different set of circumstances, things you have to take care of.
You see, that's exactly what we do on our end for the marketing side, right? We deal with digital marketers, so we help them with dealers understand the data from digital marketing perspective, and that same sort of waste idea, like, hey guys, you don't need to spend 12 grand on Auto Trader. Like, spending 6 is going to get the same results, I promise. And that, I don't think a lot of people see it that way. Now, I didn't have software when I was making my argument 10 years ago. I get the feeling that I would win it now if I had it, because that is what I think was missing, was the alternative, the idea of saying, boss, we know within reasonable mathematical skills this is not going to work retail for retail for retail.
I do want to point out something, though, that when I talk to dealers, I make a point to point this out. And that is, like, if I went back in time and said, okay, when I was at the dealership, my goal was not to spend less. My goal was to spend it faster. My goal was to spend it faster and then see if there were ways to trim it down.
Back in the term.
But the reality was, we were spending the right amount. We were just spending it so slow that the return on my investment, because that's all it is, right?
Yeah, again, I'll
Checks
pay
and
an extra
balances.
$50 to get the Cron lot a day earlier.
Right, if somebody says, hey, look, I can get that job done 2 days earlier, but I'm going to charge you a 20% surcharge because of how great I am, high fives, let's do it. Because 2 days faster time to market is that much happier of a customer, less inventory I have to carry, less holding costs. It
Time to
just-
market.
Yeah, exactly. It just keeps compounding. That's a worthwhile.
Yeah, and
spend.
we dealt with a cash owner, right? No floor plan. So this guy was like, look, guys, let's
Right.
go. Like,
Time
time's
is
money.
Actually, time's more important than money because I can
That
always
is-
make more
that
money,
is
but
your
I
quote.
cannot make more time.
It's your quote. Somewhere in my notes
Yes.
before we actually got here today, you did say that. Time is worth more than money, and I like that. But from your position, when you sit at a dealership, how do you, because those are all those dollars and cents play into your gross profit, which I assume is how
That's how we get paid.
you're paid.
Yep.
How do you balance that act against each other to make sure that you position yourself to profit, not only your dealership, but let's face it, for yourself?
Yeah, so it always, when we look at our gross at the end of the month, we always go back to how did you buy the car, right? So when you everything that we do is based on our acquisition, right? If we bought the car wrong and we missed reconditioning, it doesn't go away. It comes out at the end. So we always look back to how did we buy the car? Did we buy the car right? And if we bought the car right, then we're going to retail it right. And if we can get it through the process.
You say you do it at the end of the month, looking at cars that were sold and
So
gross profit.
Yeah,
That's what you're saying?
so everything kind of breaks down, right? So we have our monthly used car meeting where
Right.
we go sit in front of the owner and the vice president and the buyer, and we sit down and we look at the gross, and then we look at every single car, and then we can always point out, we always look at the worst cars and the best cars, and then we try to minimize our negative grosses and maximize our.
Right, but you're doing this data pull basically to say to yourself, high gross, low gross, losers, and then you're gonna go acquisition. So you're gonna walk it all the way back to the time you sat online and did.
That's a wonderful point.
This is it's more than that.
No,
It's
no, no.
unbelievable.
It really is, because if you really look at it, I mean, most of the dealerships are purchasing around 80% of their inventory just to be able to supply their own need, right?
Yeah, for some reason, there's not enough trade-ins in
Right.
the world. I don't understand what these people do with their
And
cars. I just don't get it.
very few are traveling on a regular basis. That's
Right.
what we did back when I got in the business. Now it's digital, right?
Right, all digital.
And digital is more safe than ever, because if you really look at it, if you take the time, your due diligence, that's why it's called due diligence, to actually look at those condition reports, look at who's selling it, look at the distance, you can forecast, or should be able to forecast, with the help of your experience and different softwares you have available, you should know how much it's going to cost you to get that car from raw product to the front row. So really, you make your gross
And with your
at
software number of days,
acquisition.
right?
Yes.
I'll know all that.
Well, you know all that. So we have
Right.
that information. We know that, hey, this car is, so many of these cars are out in the market, and then you take in your experience and say, hey, I know how fast my store can, be above market or below market on this car, but you put that forethought into it. You have a plan,
Yeah.
right? And if you have all three pieces, which is that great acquisition strategy, right? A great reconditioning and holding cost plan, and then a exit, marketing and sales, there shouldn't be a whole bunch of question at the end. There's always going to be blips. but that's business, right? That's why we get paid to do what we
So
do.
to kind of answer your question on how
Yeah.
I control that reconditioning cost, is
Yeah.
I've purchased the car, or one of the guys has purchased the car, and when it arrives, somebody has to physically look at the car and make sure you bought what
Check it
you
in.
thought you bought,
Right.
And whether it's me, we all print out the form, we all walk the car, and then we create a reconditioning plan through IRecon, and then we don't forget it, but it's in the system, and then it just goes through.
Because we got cars to sell. It's not like
Yeah.
you're the UC who just
Yeah.
sits back and buys
No.
cars with them. I mean, you're running desk deals, you're shaking hands,
Yeah.
kissing babies, as we say. You're
Crazy
out there.
cars,
Yeah, you're out there doing that.
Standardize as much of the process as you can.
Right.
Let software be that digital assistant that
Yeah.
never sleeps, so you can concentrate on those things you can affect. That's why it's inventory management and there's inventory control.
Right.
Inventory management is saying, hey, this is the plan, this is what I want to do. And then inventory control is monitoring and saying, okay, now we need to diverge because the market has shifted or something's changed or I need to reorder. That's the difference between staying profitable and losing money in this market.
Got you. And you're getting all this on your smartphone. Right? You have the IReconCars available to you on there.
Oh, yeah.
And when you log
Yeah,
in, you're like,
for
dude,
sure.
I can see this on my day off, whatever it is.
For sure.
You can engage that product.
Yeah.
Does that, once you're in there doing that, we're kind of going back to managing vendors, is that something that, like you were saying, the owner makes the call to you. Are you making those calls to vendors when you log on and say, oh, we're at 29 hours in detail, we should have been out 5 hours ago? Like, where's your kind of threshold with your vendor?
So I use the next set of cars as a reward for what you've done. So I don't have to call anybody, or I don't have to do any of that. The cars speak for themselves, and then they'll call you. So if they took 3 days,
They always do, don't they? I'm
Yeah,
like,
if they
hey, I'm looking a little
But
light
this is
week.
progressive. Like,
Yeah.
like,
That's the way it's supposed to
I
be.
don't
though.
normally do this, but whoever's watching this, you better be listening to this. I'm not even kidding you. I haven't
You're
done this
going
yet.
viral.
This is crazy because this approach, first of all, we're talking about taking a month-end look at what was sold and walking ourselves back to, I assume, not make the same mistakes. I assume to increase whatever revenue, right? I've never heard, I've been doing this 20 years, 25, 20, we got 60 years. This is the first time I've ever heard this. So I'm impressed, man. I think that the way you go about that with the vendor, and what you just said was, my next set of cars is that reward.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And the vendors know it. Do you say that?
It always happens the same. So somebody takes 3 days to turn one detail around, and then they don't. And then they see, because you give them
right, they're
cars.
getting
and
another IRecon invite, right?
They don't.
Yeah.
So then they call and they say, hey, I didn't get any cars yesterday, and I say, well, it took you 3 days to get the last ones done.
Let's not reward bad behavior.
So I can't give you any. I don't
I'm
have
not a
any.
parent, but I am a dog owner. It's the same thing. So
I don't have any
more
more cars to give you today. I'll try and give you one tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, when I give them one, you can bet that it's back in 12 hours.
Oh, they get the
And then
hint
rinse
real
and
quick.
repeat, rinse and repeat, and then they, it only takes a couple times.
So just like a salesman, right? Hey, go through his peaks and valleys. He had his 20 car month, then he'll have his 12 car.
Yeah, and we're not reinventing the wheel, right? So,
No.
if I could increase the days on the lot by 1 day, is that huge? Of course, it's huge, but it's just one car. So out of 270, so it's okay that we try to create the habits as we go along, because I want them to be the best vendors that they can be. And if over time we realize that it's taken them 3 days to do details more often than not, then we just move on.
Yeah, see,
You
and
have
I
that
think-
hard talk.
Well, I say, I think with my management style, and that's why I don't manage people anymore, is because that would put me in a micromanagement hell position where I just be like, it's 25 hours. Get this guy on the phone,
Listen,
and I'm gonna
well,
blow him up. It's unacceptable. He said
Right.
24. I'm now upset.
The point of the software was so that way I could be more passive aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell people, I was becoming very bitter. I was becoming that traditional bitter used car manager
Yeah.
who just walked around with a scowl and everybody ran. So that way I could enforce behavior just because of my
Yeah.
demeanor, right?
Yeah.
And what I found was I was becoming that person. I was not happy with that person.
Sure.
So by creating the software and allowing people to self-manage, that was the passive aggressive shot across the
Yeah.
bow. It's like, I don't need to tell you, Dan, that I'm upset. It's hurting you financially.
Yeah, you saw it. You only got one car last week, so go
Plus-
figure it out yourself.
Plus, I could concentrate on those areas that could affect positive change.
Right.
And then finally, when you look at it and you're watching it and you go, now I am a manager. Now I need to go have that hard talk. But rather than have a bunch of these bad talks and everybody just be unhappy, do your job, man. But if you don't, well, now we need to have a positive conversation. The reason I say positive is at the end of it, I'm going to feel better.
Right.
Not sure if you will. But I will, and that's what I get paid to do.
And I will say, most of the time, the vendors respond. They do. They do get it.
They want to make money.
And they want to make money. And then one more thing that IRecon does is it does show the vendor exactly how many cars are on their plate. So they accept the job. They know exactly how many. They know their time is ticking. And if we're on the lot vendors like PDR and Touch Up that are doing the work on the lot, if they don't get to it in time, I'm just going to go in and just reassign it to another vendor.
See, that's that thing. It's the fear of loss motivates them to increase their productivity.
So then they get a notification that says this job is no longer available.
It's because the car was in their queue, they didn't get to it fast enough. You can remove it.
Yeah, and it'll tell them that you removed it.
It just flags them, so it just says this car's not
passive aggressive. That's what he's. I'm actually just way more aggressive than passive in my own life, but I like the idea of being able to just pull work. That's interesting. Imagine if I could walk back to my own service guys and do that because they're dragging their ass. Like, sorry boys, you're off that job. Bring the next guy in. Yeah, right? Efficiency. So when you deal with you do repairs though in-house, right? So none of that gets shipped out. Those guys go through there. Are you on the same retail pay plan we were just talking about as far as to your service department?
I mean, we're so close to retail. I wouldn't say that we're...
You get the 5% handshake.
Yeah, but they bump it 10% or something. Right, so... You know.
Yeah, but parts is 50%.
And we've, you know, I've been at the same store for so long. We fought the same fight that you fought, and it's one of those things that I've just accepted. It is what it is. I'm just going to move on.
On some level it is.
And what you can control, back to what you said. Control what you can control. I can't control this. It's the owner's money.
So don't concentrate on things you can't.
And then honestly, if I buy better cars that need less reconditioning, I'm going to spend less in the shop, right? So I think, you know, one of the things...
You acquire good trades.
Yeah, right? I mean, you can't really control how ratty a trade is.
But I guess my point there was, do you wholesale?
Oh,
are you a guy that will keep everything?
We keep everything that can pass the safety inspection.
Okay.
But if it can't pass it, we have to wholesale.
Okay. But if it passes safety, it goes up on the Craigslist of the world.
Yep, you got it.
We're here in Auto Suite, right? The place of all Craigslist postings. So how, really quickly, and it's kind of off base, but from your position, do you get involved, this is more for me, do you get involved in the marketing side? As in you see, like, you deal with the AutoTraderCars.com of the world?
Yeah, I'm in the weekly... weekly marketing calls.
You're in the calls.
Yeah.
So you're in the meetings with those guys and the vendors and all those guys.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with? Are you on the what I call the big three? AutoTraderCars.com, Car Gurus.
Absolutely.
You're on all three.
Yeah.
Do you deal with spotlight specials, all of that?
Yep.
And are you using their data to try and figure out your pricing, or how do you go about getting your retail price to the front?
So we're the auto dealers, right? So we do believe in the market is the market is the market. I think the nice thing about Viato, it does give you the whole market view, right? You don't have to look at just AutoTrader or just Cars.com.
But does Car Gurus finally fill into there?
Into Viato?
Yeah, because they have the longest time.
only. You can't see
it's not all the
SRPs,
information.
but you can
So you don't see all the data, but you get a little bit. So you still bounce back to Car Gurus just to double check badges.
You got it.
Yeah.
And then yeah, right, because we are also Car Guru dealers on our website. So it'll show the Car Guru good deal or great deal on our personal website.
Yeah. The one thing I just had a client switch to that. Did you know on the desktop they can bleed back into Car Gurus?
What do you mean?
From your VDP. So if they're on the desktop site and they click into that little box that pops up, if they click the Car Gurus logo, they can get back to the site. It's your page, but then it's free open inventory. There's a side note, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I was like, not cool. I don't bleed off my site. That's not why I put badges on there.
Right, no, that's definitely something.
And it's on desktop. They're mobile. No problem.
Can't do it.
Can't do it. And they admitted to me, Sean, we don't know why, and we have no idea how to fix that. Which is a little uncomfortable from a company that size, but not for here. But so you're in those meetings, you're looking at all of that pricing and dealing. Are you dealing with those vendors, or do you have a marketing department that deals with those vendors?
We're just one. We're two stores now, so we're dealing directly with the vendors. We don't have we have a marketing guy, but we don't really have a marketing team. It's me, the owner, our vice president, new car manager. I mean, it's just us.
But you guys return a ton of cars.
But it's great because you get immediate feedback. He knows what's working.
And that's awesome. And that's what I love to hear. And that's why we created our company to help people in that position who don't have marketing people, who don't have all of that. Because that's all we do is look at data. But do you look at your website as probably one of the more valuable assets that you have, or do you see the auto traders being more valuable and used?
I think it's anybody that sits there and tells you they have the magic wand. It's really silly.
Yeah, they lie to you.
Yeah, because you'd like to know that you know what's working, what's not working, but the reality is if somebody punches autotrader.com in their search bar and hits enter, that's where they're going. And if you're not advertising there, you're going to miss that customer.
Right.
And same thing with cars.com and
It's
Car
playing the
Biz.
averages, really.
It really is, and I think it's another thing. It's about budget, right? It's about spending what you can afford. The second you spend over, you start to worry.
Right. Something I wanted to bring up too is they actually leverage all that reconditioning history that's created in the IReconCars system with their consumers.
So is it like the last picture type thing? Is it a breakdown of the
No, there's
IReCon,
actually
or
a
like how you do
link.
it
So there's two parts to the IReconCars system. You have the software, which is IReconCars.
for him and his team, right?
Right, and then you have what we call the My Car Pedigree,
Okay.
and that actually links up to their website and also to Carfax and repurposes all that reconditioning history, including allowing them to do build sheets, service history, and all that. So that way consumers are now much more engaged.
So when a
as
used
you
car
speak-
comes in, he knows what the consumer knows what was done to it.
Yes.
All the service, you hide nothing. You show
And the
everything.
reason
With price.
the reason I did that is because
That's
working at
transparent as
a
hell.
we're working at a Lexus store, you would spend a lot of money.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And what I found was that it really didn't have a huge, I mean, it protected the end consumer, protected the dealer, and gave me a great product to sell. That's beneficial.
Fine.
But telling a consumer you spent $3,000, they just don't get it. Being able to show them, hey, look, here's what we did to give you the best product, to protect our brand, and to make you feel comfortable, that's a wonderful sell. And plus, that leads to less negotiation.
Well, right, and not only that, but it's a built-in price justifier, right? So
Exactly.
I'm like, your car. How many times do you hear? Well, your car is $750 more expensive than the guy down the road. You go,
Right.
yeah, but here, look at this guy down the road.
And
let me
that's
show you
exactly
this. Guy
what
gonna do
they
that.
do.
Do you guys leverage it that way?
Yeah, so every customer that we try to sell a car to gets a Carfax, they get our service records, and they get our market comparison. So they get exactly where we're
Just
positioned.
Are you going to do this online or just in person?
I mean, it's mostly in person. I don't know.
Would you offer a client who's like, I live an hour away?
Oh, sure.
Like, you get into that?
Yeah.
You're transparent. You have nothing to hide.
No.
That's my point.
Right, yeah, because we know, and you guys know that you can't hide from it anyway.
Not anymore,
if,
man.
Right, if it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad tomorrow. It's going to be bad the next.
I say
day.
if consumers get taken advantage of in today's world, it's their own damn fault. I'll be honest with you. There's too much research
Yeah,
available
if
to
you don't put
There's too
the
many things to
information
know.
out there, if you do not put the information out there, they will go to whoever will.
Yeah, I mean, I used to feel bad. Buddies would call me like, I got a 4-pounder. Now I'm like, it's a dumb consumer. I can't help it. People make money. I can't begrudge people for making a profit. It's not fair because I make a profit. You do. Everyone does. So it's a part of how we do business. So guys, we're coming to the end of this, and I got to tell you, I am so excited that first of all I got to meet Mike in person and Dan in person, but more that you decided to bring Dan with you as a dealer because this is the progressive nature of dealers that we at Car Biz strive for. And Dan, you should know this. Whether you want to admit it or not, or even want to hear it, you are a 1% dealer with your approach. And I've been sitting here for 40 minutes, and I will tell you that with whole honesty. And I talk to, like Mike, dealers across the country. There are not people who are looking and doing things the way you're doing them. And I won't get into how you lead your team, because I'm sure you lead them with the same respect you lead your vendors. But man, keep up the awesome work. It's really, really awesome. So my takeaway, I'm going to get each of you to give me a takeaway here. My takeaway right now, well, two of them. Promise something. Do it. That's Mike Boyd. That's what he likes. That's what I like. And the other one is controlling your inventory, not just managing it. Because I think you can manage people, and when you say control people, they hear it differently. But it means to basically see the bottleneck, see where the issue is. So control the process. Mike, what is your takeaway or two from today?
Actually, that was a perfect lead to. I'll be speaking at Digital Dealer next month.
Right.
Digital Dealer 25 in Las Vegas. And my session is actually titled Inventory Management versus Inventory Control. Is there a difference? And I think we've pretty much summed that up. There really is.
A huge
right? And the biggest takeaway when I talk to dealers is that in this day and age, of course I want every dealer to use my software. I'm a business person. But adopt an inventory management and control software. It just does not make sense with all the tools that are out there and all the tools that whether or not you want to, you have to interact with on a daily basis just to stay relevant, to ignore your own cost and holding costs and those people who are dependent upon you to provide them with an income. That's the vendor, the person that does the work, to the salesperson, to the owner. You carry a big load on your back. You need something to help you that never sleeps. So be progressive, understand that we are all in the same boat, we all face the same issues, but to just turtle your head down and take it in this day and age doesn't make sense.
So don't hide. Don't hide.
Don't hide. Just say, hey, look, it is what it is. you can be petrified of technology. I was, and I started a software company.
Sure.
But I understood that either I was going to be affected by the change or I could help affect change. And I chose to be progressive.
Love it. And obviously we know Dan is Dan. Not that you could, I mean, takeaways are really coming from you, but in hearing the discussion, what do you take away from today that you think people need to know?
I think, the biggest, if I had one thing or two things that I could give somebody, I would just say, acquire cars right, get them through the process as fast as you can, and deliver a great product to the consumer. And if you do those three things, it'll make you happier, your salespeople happier, and your owner happier. And there's nothing better than that. If you make your customers happy at the end of the day, I think that's the silver.
The biggest part is making people happy and making
Yeah.
sure they have a quality car that people are proud to have on their front line, right?
Yeah.
And be proud of. That's
Yeah.
To me, that's a big part of it. I'm gonna say this as I wrap it up, and I'm gonna say it to the camera. If you have been watching and listening, you need to be writing down one big point, and that's after the month is over, go back through your deals, look at your grosses, and tie them all the way back to how they came to your dealership, and look at all the bottlenecks. That was probably, in all the time I've been doing this, one of the best lines I've had someone tell me. So, Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dan, thank you. And everyone, we'll see you again next time. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.